Hello there. Well, school has started back, the term is up and running, and summer hopefully isn't over, but it might be. And so we're back into the normal routine of regular church ministry, of home Bible fellowships one week and the prayer gathering the other week. And so this is our first home Bible fellowship week for a while. It's been a few months since the groups met at the start of the summer, and maybe this is an opportunity for you to connect back with your group again, or perhaps you're in an entirely new group this year. So at some point this evening, maybe now, maybe at the end over a cup of tea, depending on how your group is running, it's really important to just spend some time chatting, catching up, but not just getting information on each other, spending some time praying together and for one another as well as we start this new year. So make that really central to the Home Bible Fellowship this week. We do want to get into the Bible, absolutely, but it's also about fellowship, about encouraging and supporting one another. So do that either now or later on in the video. Over the summer, we've covered quite a lot of the book of Genesis. We've been continuing our weekly looks on a Sunday morning through Genesis chapter by chapter. And over the summer months, we've made good headway. Maybe you've heard all the sermons, maybe you've been away and not heard everything, but perhaps there's been something over these summer months that has just stood out to you. Maybe something that you've read as you've read the Bible texts as you've gone through Genesis, or maybe it's something that one of the preachers has highlighted that has challenged you or made you think that a little bit more, has brought questions to your mind. Take some time in your group to chat through that, to see what God's been saying to you, how you've been growing, what you've been learning, or any questions that you've got from Genesis over these past chapters, past weeks and months. As we come to this week was a bit of an overview service. It was an all ages service, and we were trying to look back over the life of Jacob, but also we had communion, as is our custom on the first Sunday of the month. And it's so important to remember the Lord as He's instructed us to do in that way. But as we saw in Jacob, and we saw how his life points us to Jesus, his life in Genesis covers quite a few chapters, from chapter 25 all the way up to chapter 33, where we are at the moment, but then even further as well. Take some time in your group just to skim through those chapters from chapter 25 through to chapter 33. Just skimming, you're not going to have time to read that all in detail. But note and just map out the important moments in Jacob's life. What's happened to him? What have been the ups and the downs? What's he done right? And what's he done wrong in these chapters? And just map it out. On Sunday morning, we did watch a children's video that highlighted some of those things. I'll put the link in the descriptor below so you can have a look at that if it would be helpful. But together, just walk your way through those chapters, highlighting some of the things that Jacob did, that happened to him, and what the outcome was, what God did, and how we see God at work in those. For the main focus of our Bible study today, though, I want us to focus on this reconciliation between Jacob and his brother Esau. And the main passage that we're going to focus on this week is Genesis 32, verses 1 to 21. So read that together in your group now. Genesis 32, verses 1 to 21. If there's anything that stood out to you, any questions that have arisen in your mind, any things that you have learned from that, then have a look just now and have a discussion about those. In these verses, we have a prayer that Jacob prays. It's the first recorded prayer that we have of him, and it's from verses 9 to 12. So look specifically at those verses and discuss these three questions. What does Jacob say about God in his prayer? What does he say about himself? And what is his request, or what does he ask of God when he prays? In his prayer, Jacob acknowledges that God is kind and good. He acknowledges that God has given him what he doesn't deserve. And he goes on to ask for deliverance. He goes on to ask for deliverance for his brother Esau, who he fears is coming out in search of him. Now, those things that we see in that prayer are true in the big things of life and in the small things of life. So we know that whatever is going on in our lives, we know that it's true that God is kind and good. That doesn't change, no matter what's going on. God also gives us what we don't deserve. We know that God is gracious. He gives what is not earned, but yet he chooses to give good things to us. And Jacob goes on to ask for deliverance for his brother Esau. He's scared, he's wondering what's going to happen, and he asks God to save him in that situation. We have loads of things happening in our lives, some big, some small. But we know that ultimately, when we call out to God for deliverance, he gives us that in salvation. He himself has paid the price in Jesus that we might be forgiven, that we might be reconciled to himself. But these are good things to use in our prayers for ourselves and also our prayers for each other. To remember that God is good and kind. To acknowledge that he gives us good things. But to call out to him for what we need. Recognizing that we cannot do many things by ourselves. We can't earn salvation. We can't solve many of the problems of life. And God asks us to call out to him for help in these situations. There may be other things in this passage that have stood out to you that you've discussed. But really, what I want us to do in this first week back at Home Bible Fellowships is remember who God is and what he's like. Remember our need of him. Remember that he gives us what we can't do ourselves and that he asks us to follow him in faith. So use these things as you encourage one another, as you seek to serve God day by day.